Okay, so hello, what's up? My name's Seb, and welcome to the podcast. Today, basically, there's gonna be two styles of the JumpCast. One's gonna be the bin or win series, and then the other style, which is something that might not crop up a lot, but like there are some situations where I'm doing this podcast and just generally like February, where there's a little less recording times. The times that I have got recording, some of the people that I would normally do the podcast with aren't actually active or online, so I have to kind of, I was thinking, oh, what can I do instead when less people are online? And I come up with an idea, and this is going to be a kind of a little bit more of a limited series of the podcast, where it's going to be called Gaming With. And Gaming With is where we have somebody on the side of the screen, whether it's a voice up and down or a kind of like I don't know, a picture like you can see right now where I'm on the side of the screen, and you have the main game, which is going to be taking up the majority. Right now I'm playing Satisfactory. As you can see, it looks very interesting, and I thought the first episode should be with me, so it's kind of like a solo more or interview styled podcast, which is generally what a lot of podcasts are. They are kind of like interview podcasts. And I thought, because we're a gaming channel, we might as well have a game played while we're doing the podcast. So you can see I'm playing Satisfactory. It's kind of one of my favorite games to play at this current point in time, and it's got less of voice and vocals. So like there are a few games that I play, but I play a lot of story games, which I'll get into in a bit. But yeah. So this is kind of the reason I'm playing this, is just because it's got less voices, because it's less of a story, so it's more of like a building game. So yeah, that's what we're doing. We've got questions ready to pop up, so the pre-questions will come over the screen, so you'll kind of get used to the questions that we ask during these podcasts. And it's kind of getting to know the content creator behind it. So if there's any content creators that you think that we can possibly get in touch with, then message them down in the comments below, and we'll try and get in touch with them. We're trying to ask them questions. I'll probably start off with my own crew and then expand outwards when we get to that stages. All right, so bring on the first question. What is your channel and why did you name it? All right, so this is a lovely one. This is a nice, simple one for me. JumpInsideGames. That is the name of the channel. And why did I name it JumpInsideGames? Well, the whole reason of that was just something that, well, why did I name it JumpInsideGames? Because I wanted it to be something easy to search. That's kind of the reason. I had a previous channel before this one. It was called The Espontin Show, and I figured, if you tell someone The Espontin Show, they might go, okay, how does he spell that? I thought, what three words go together, describe the channel, and are easy to spell? So pretty much I can go to anyone. I can go Jump Inside Games. It's all one word, so there's no space or anything. So you just type Jump Inside Games, and then you'll be able to find the channel. The base of the name is to make it easy to remember, so people can search it up without having to, think too hard. And I'm hoping, and I have no idea, I hope it's got a ring to it. I hope it's got like a thing where people are like, oh yeah, that makes sense. So yeah, so Jump Inside Games is the name of the channel. That's why we've named it that way. Obvious, and one of the things about the channel, which is something that I always find quite interesting, it's all about jumping inside video games. That's what it's all about. It's like jumping inside the introduction of video games, if you want to like expand it a bit more like in that direction. But in theory, what it is, it's all about just trying to give viewers the opportunity to see what the introduction of a video game is like. All right, so yeah, that's basically it. That's why we've named it that way, and yeah, that's Jump Inside Games. Next question: why did you start it up? Why did you start it up? Why did I start this up? I started this up because I always, because and number one, I love content creating. I did do a Let's Play channel before this, but I think my content kind of matured, so that's one of the reasons why I wanted to close off the previous and then start this one up. One of the big reasons that I wanted to make it the way it is, because I like reviewing things. I wanted interesting comments on the channel. I think interesting comments are cool. I think I didn't want to have viewers. I wanted to give the viewers something to talk about. I didn't want them to just go, oh yeah, awesome gameplay, found it really funny. I wanted them to have their own opinions on stuff. So I wanted them to be able to create long comments about something they either agreed or disagreed with when watching a video. So for example, if you like watched a review or a versus mode video, and then it gives the viewer to decide which one to pick, and it also gives them a bit of a conversation to explain why they picked it. So I think that JumpInsideGames is a great place to form opinions when it comes to video games, where people can be realistic and they can go, oh yeah, no, this game is great, or no, this game is awful. And because we base around on like a lot of newer games and AAA titles and all that kind of stuff, I think it really does help the fact that that as we choose the games that we play, it also
this semi-slug species
allows
seems to
people that
persist
haven't
entirely
played
through
those
absorbing
games.
and storing
She's talking
energy.
while I'm in the middle of something. Be quiet. It gives the viewer that hasn't even thought or played these games, that are considering to play these games, because we're focusing on bigger titles, whether or not they should be spending their money on something of that magnitude. Because I think it's very important, especially with things like games like Assassin's Creed, they're franchise games, and if a bad Assassin's Creed comes out, you might want to buy it, or you might be considering on buying it, but you might not know that it's bad, or you might have only watched trailers to see if it's bad or not. But you might be interested in playing it no matter what the community says, and you get it, and then you realize that it's bad, and you're like, oh, if only someone told me previously. Well, that's where JumpInsideGames come in. It's the gap filler, and that's kind of what we like to do. We like to play those AAA games and kind of give to the viewer that's going to be thinking about buying this game, whether or not it's worth their time, money, and effort. They actually get to see a bit of an introduction of the game, but they get to see it safely without having to see too much, because that's why we only do the introduction the first 2 hours. So you kind of get to grips with literally the stuff that you'll experience within the first 2 hours of a video game. That's where our Jump Inside series comes in, and that's kind of like where our reviews are as well. So it's all about more of the introduction of something. Next question. What is your background in gaming and media? Oh, my background in gaming and media. Oh, I started off ages ago. I remember. I got to do some research on this game. Where my research? Okay, it wants that. Okay, I haven't really focused. I've just been jumping around doing nothing for those first 2 questions. Right. Okay, I've got to make. Oh, I'm collecting. Oh, that's what I'm doing. I'm collecting leaves, and I'm turning them into biomass to make some stuff. What's my background in gaming and media? My background in gaming and media is a fun one. I remember starting a job ages ago when being originally interested in stuff where, I was... That's going to do nothing. It's literally going to break. Is that going to also break? I mean... Oh, this is on Xbox, so I'm a little bit like going like, which button does what? Oh, you go. They're both talking. They're gonna do the stuff for me, so I'm gonna probably upgrade this in a bit. Is that going through? Yeah, that's going through. Alright, and then what does this need? This needs a lot of metal. Okay, that's fine. Alright, okay. So yeah, no. I remember when I was young, I started off a job, and the whole reason of the job that I was doing was to get as much money so I could buy some software. Because like when I was really young, I wasn't quite sure what I wanted to do in my life. I knew some things that I wanted to do, but like overall, I really didn't have like a full-on plan, and I was constantly looking. And then I remember that, because I like computers, I like video games. That's what I did when I was younger. And I remember the whole situation of going, what can I use this form of video games for? What can I do with this fun stuff that I like to do? And then someone came up to me and said, oh, no, you can, YouTube pays money, and so you can make videos on video games and get paid for it. And I was like, oh, can you? That's cool. And so I looked into YouTube and thought, all right, now if I grow this, if I can do this, maybe I'll get paid money one day, and that'd be kind of cool. I ended up just enjoying the area, And I'm always on the belief that, like, you know, if I make money someday, that's great and all that kind of stuff. But I think it's a great thing to enjoy the space that you're in. So I definitely did a lot of stuff where I really enjoyed doing videos and making media, and I saved up a lot of money. I bought myself a computer to make all these videos that I want to make, and then eventually I expanded on that and actually getting into a company that you know that was all about video making, and I think that's great. I think the one thing though is about that YouTube is all about you as the content creator. So wherever you take media in any realm, it's always a delivery towards people. So it's based about how much of you use in the video and then how much of them you're including into the video as well. So it's like who has the most say. That's always the interesting part, because if everything is 100% you, then that's kind of cool. That's a cool round to be in, because like that means people like the stuff that you do, and I think that's great. I've always been a bit like defensive on creativity, because I think that YouTube has a unique thing that if you grow on YouTube and it's your content the way you want it to be shown, then that's really cool, because you're making something and you're the decision maker in that. So, you know, that's always a fun thing. But yeah, no, I got to a point where I did this and I actually get, you know, paid doing it as well in a form of a job that I got out of it. But anyway, okay, we'll go to the next question. And there's do you have any difficulties running your channel? Yeah, absolutely. I do 100% difficulties running my channel all the time. I think I think more or less it's the learning curve of actually getting people to know the content that you make. I mean, I think kind of one of the hardest things to do as a YouTuber is, like, you know, you want to make content, and you know, and you can make content for two reasons. You can make content for your friends and all that kind of stuff, but really, if you want to make content and you want to grow something out of this, you know, and people say, you know, like, you know, people do, you know, shouldn't focus on the money, and I'm like saying, no, of course you don't want to focus your attention on the money, because, you know, because that's just, well, I don't know what you say about that. Like, money is an addition to being able to create stuff that people like and enjoy. But I think it's kind of like, if you're making content for other people, you want people to like the stuff that you make. So it's all about learning. I think one of the difficult things is learning about what people like and what people, you know, pay attention to. I find, and it's weird, I find certain words or certain things on the, you know, behind the scenes of YouTube, I think is kind of like, you know, YouTube's finding an audience based on certain words, maybe, I'm not too sure, but it definitely feels like some stuff that I do gets a bit of a, you know, an audience, and some stuff doesn't. So it's kind of like, I think the difficulty is learning about what the audience like and what they don't like. So that's kind of my situation. And I say audience, viewers, I don't know, I don't know what people like to be called. Yeah, that's what I'll say. I'll say that. I gotta move this base now because I need some cobblestone. I'm picking that up and I'm moving that while that's creating that. Yeah, so that would be my answer for that. All right, we'll move on to the next one. What's your favorite game and what do you like about them? What's my favorite game? What do I like about them? My favorite games in the whole realm of gaming would be RPGs, story games. There's also, like, I have a puzzle and building kind of side of me. So puzzles, building, stories, and RPGs. Those are my 4 realms of games that I like to play. And yeah, I think kind of those are the areas that connect me the best to the stuff that I like to do. I'm going to see if I can build something really quickly before I... Yeah, okay, cool. And I'm gonna place that. Place that on there. Yeah. So well, okay. Yeah. No, those are the game sections that I like. I think I can be very judgy, and I think you should always be very judgy on the things that you like to play, because, you know, at the end of the day, you're the one playing them. You're the gamer. You're meant to be the market. So you can be judgy on what you like and what you don't like when it comes to, you know, playing different games. I think it's really hard, and it should always be hard for creatives to get the game exactly the way that you want to play it, because, you know, at the end of the day, you are the audience. So, like, I will be judgy on the fact that those are my 4 types of genres that I like to play, and if they're not up to scratch or they're not perfect and they're not the way I like to play them, then, you know, then I will judge you hard, because, like, I want to play good stuff. So there are definitely games that crop up, and I will be a bit harsher on them as when I'm picking my games. Either I'm just playing them, you know, just me, because, like, you know, here's a game that recently cropped up that I was like, I had issues with, and it was like Dragon Age Inquisition. Sorry, no, Dragon Age Inquisition is cool. It was Dragon Age Dreadwolf, I think it was, that I hated with all my heart, because I'm a big fan of Dragon Age, and I'm a big fan of RPGs in general, and I'm like, you know, when you make games that represent the stuff that I like, they've got to be done correctly, and I hate it when games change the core of what the game is just based on what people like and what people don't like, because, like, it's like a narrowed audience. If you try and make your game for everybody, you're gonna lose the core audience that are the most passionate fans about your game. Which is a bad thing. It should always be a bad thing. Audience should be like the #1 thing to really focus on. And I'm like, you know, don't treat your you know, the people that started you up, the people that are going to be loyal to you to the end, don't treat them off, because, you know, like, they'll always be your fans, and you kind of want to keep it that way. It's like when games change the way they're styled, that's when I kind of hate it. So, you know, yeah, one of the things 100% I like about the whole gaming realm is games when they're focused on what they said they want to focus on. So, like, some of the games that are really good at this are things like, and I'll say the Mass Effect series is really good. I know that that there's changes in the most recent, but it doesn't change the core, and it doesn't change that it's a space game where you're thinking. It may change different elements, like the main character feels a bit different in the most latest version, which is Mass Effect Andromeda, but, like, a lot of the core stuff about the original games are there. Like, for example, it really reminds me of the first Mass Effect game, which is why I really like playing it. But there are definitely other games that also are really good at what they do. So, for example, like, Red Dead Redemption is a really good game, because it doesn't really change that much about what, well, you know, what you would think about Red Dead Redemption is. It does remind me a lot about the first game, just more expanded. In fact, it reminds me so much about the first game. They even got, like, some of the actors that were in it with that design. So, for example, they brought John Marston into it, and he looks exactly like the previous John Marston, but they just put more creativity into designing his character a little bit more. So they bring him into this new 4K, I don't know, the 4K world, or this current gen. So yeah, it just makes it so, you know, he's up there, and he's, you know, it just makes all the characters in that game just brilliant, and, you know, and all the stuff inside the game is brilliant, and everything about the game is brilliant, because it just reminds me so much of the first game, but better. And I like it when games are, like, when they do sequels, they expand on what the original intent of their first original game was. So it's like, you know, when games do the expansion, then that's when games get more interesting, because, you know, it's they're not giving you a complete switch, they're just expanding on what has already worked. And I think that's a good thing. I think it's a great thing. I think that's one of the reasons that GTA does so well. It's GTA Online, and they don't change anything about GTA Online except they just give you more and more of GTA. So I think that's why GTA gets like so big in the whole gaming world, because they like giving you a full-on game that's pretty much what you'd expect, but it's just bigger and better in every way every time they bring an update out, because they're constantly I don't know what to put it, they're constantly just improving instead of actually changing the game up, and I think that's a great thing to do. Leave things mine for a while. Right, I think that makes a good sentence for that. That's what my favorite games are. Let's move on to the next one. What are your plans for the next 12 months? Do I actually have any plans for the next 12 months? I plan to make more videos. I think kind of like the thing is that I really want to improve on the videos that I'm currently making. So, for example, I really want to, like, every year I come up with new graphics packs. I learn more. I want to make everything more SVG than PNG. I think kind of one of the thing is I really want to do this year is to put like loads more effort into the stuff that I make. And you know, and it's all about just having more space and time to do that in the background. So I think the more space and time that I give myself to be creative over the stuff that we want to produce, I think is very important. Yeah, I think if anything in the next 12 months, I think it's probably giving myself time to actually really narrow down, focus on a video and make it the best it can possibly be ever, because I think at the end of the day, that's the most important part. Because, you know, you should always be focused on creating the next best thing, and, you know, and just on occasions, you know, it can be. So, you know, absolutely love it. I love the fact that, of where my focus wants to be. I like the fact that I want to make I don't know how to say it properly. Yeah, I don't know. Okay. Well, what? So like, any plans for the next 1 month? I'd say give more time to myself to make better content. Yeah, I think that's probably the better way to put it. Is there anything you want to change in the gaming industry? Yeah, more cooperative games. I think we're running out of them. One of the things that like I feel a bit of it, like I hate about the gaming industry is the fact that when I was like for me, prime gaming really hit up around 2007 to 2011, where a lot of games around that time were really like cooperative, you know, showcasing themselves, and I was like, that's cool. It's cool we had that time, and I feel like we deserve more of that. Whereas things like between those time periods, I think 2013 at latest, where you would have games like Portal 2, where you had to, you know, play with a companion. You had Fable, which was like play with a companion. That could be an online person as well. You could play, you know, like Gears of War. You know, a lot of games were getting invented around that time and day, and not only that, it was also you know, like, yeah. So sorry, where was I? My headspace just went. My games were games back then, they were all focused on co-op, and like now these days it's less that, it's less more like I don't know, I don't know what I could name. I could name like quite a few games between those periods, but everything's tuned more less cooperative and more multiplayer, at least in my eyes, where I see like the big AAA titles don't get as many sales as those big gun shoot games do, which is a little bit of a shame, because I fell in love with stories. I think one of the biggest changes for me was Rainbow Six Siege, when it felt like it went more multiplayer than being in a story with maybe a co-op player. It just, you know, things just felt different as they progressed, and I really want to see that world come back, where everything was all more co-op and more interactive. And I think 2026 is probably the best time to showcase that, because, but yeah, no, I'm hoping for 2026 to be a cooperative gaming year, because we're getting things like Grand Theft Auto 6, and we're getting things like I can't remember, like I know I'm seeing some titles, and I'm seeing like Gears of War. That's going to be cooperative, right? I think, you know, like the next one in the story. I don't know if that's coming out this year. but yeah, I'm hoping for more stories and cooperativeness in this year, because it's going to be like Fable is coming out this year as well. That's a game that came out back then. So was Grand Theft Auto. So was, you know, there was a lot of games that came out back then, but they're making a re-comeback now, and I'm really hoping that cooperative is returning to the market, because like there were games that, like, Fable was a big one because it would, like, it encouraged you to play. The game experience is better when you play with other people, because you trade with different characters. You know, if you've got that as a system built in, then I think that's a great thing to have into video games. So yeah, I think that's kind of it for me. We'll go to the. I think there's another question on the board, which is there anything that you have learned in the industry? Yeah, there is definitely things that I've learned in the industry. I'd say kind of like, you know, there are a lot of things that go into content creating, and I think, like, you know, it's not just all about editing. There are, like, it's titling, descriptions, learning about how to create things, being creative itself, learning where buttons go, or, you know, when it comes to, like, you know, editing photos, like, and you want to know where all the plugins are, what things do. I'd say kind of one of the main things, probably, working for a team or working for yourself is a big one. When you work for a team, you work on the basis of what everybody else wants. But then you work in, like, yourself, you kind of, you are the judge, you get to choose what happens. And I think that's kind of, like, really important, that, you know, that creativity is expressed. That's what YouTube is. It's a place that you make all the decisions at and nobody else does. And I think kind of like there's a lot of that being hidden away, and not a lot of people focus on that as much anymore. But, like, for me, it's always going to be about, like, you know, YouTube is the place where you as a person gets to be expressive to themselves, and you get to, you know, choose how you want people to view and see you. And I think that's just very important. So yeah, I'd say if there's anything I've learned, it's learning to be creative solo, and the difference between being creative and solo, and, you know, and a team. But I think that's just a thing that, you know, I'm aware of, and I think that's something that I've learned. But I think also, like, knowing what to choose, what to do a title, and what to think, those are always ongoing learning things that I always need to be aware of and always need to think about. So yeah, I think that would most likely be all the questions that I have for myself, and I think that's a good description on some of them. But so anyway, there you go. That's the podcast right there. Hopefully you enjoyed. If you did enjoy, please don't forget to comment, tell me what you think about it. Again, obviously there are a lot of questions inside there. I hope you got to grips on what most of my answers were. Yeah, and just tell me who again you think that would be suited to have questions in next time, and, you know, maybe you could say who you'd like to be interviewed in the next one, and kind of, like, I don't know, what questions you'd have for them as well, because I think that'd be kind of interesting, because I think if you want to have someone in, maybe you want to ask them a particular question. For me, this is quite a short podcast, but then again, I think it's quite full of a lot of information about, you know, who we are and what I do and all that kind of stuff. Again, a lot of the times I read off script, so that's going to be talking without a script. So you know, tell me what you think about it. Tell me if you enjoyed it. If you didn't enjoy it, maybe we'll make some more. If you didn't enjoy it, I don't know. Yeah, don't forget to tell me what you think. I'll see you guys on another Jump Inside videos very, very soon. Thanks for watching, and goodbye. Hey, thank you so much for watching, and I really hope you enjoyed the video. If you did enjoy the video, then please don't forget to give a like and subscribe to the channel. That would be amazing. Thank you so much. Anyway, I will see you guys on another Jump Inside video very soon. Thanks for watching, and goodbye.